Welcome to the Transforming Trauma podcast. Transforming Trauma is presented by the Complex Trauma Training Center. I'm your host, Emily Ruth, and I'm so glad you've joined us today. As a mental health professional, you care for others, and the Complex Trauma Training Center is committed to caring for you. We are thrilled to introduce our Space Program 2025, an inner development program of support and self-discovery for therapists on the personal, interpersonal, and transpersonal levels. Therapists often focus so much on learning skills to use with clients that we don't leave space for ourselves. This interactive experiential program offers an immersive learning environment designed to cultivate space for ourselves in our professional role. As Viktor Frankl taught, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Starting February through December 2025, we will host 6 online sessions designed to cultivate space for self-care and self-discovery. We will be exploring the obstacles that stand in your way of being the most present, heartful, and effective therapist possible. Together, we will explore in a safe, inclusive, and supportive environment with the intention to create greater effectiveness and resilience in our professional lives. Please visit complextraumatrainingcenter.com and secure your spot in the SPACE program. It's time to care for you. Today's episode is a conversation between Brad Kammer, Stefanie Klein, and Marcia Black. Brad Kammer is a licensed marriage and family therapist and professional clinical counselor. Brad is trained as a body-mind psychotherapist and co-authored The Practical Guide for Healing Developmental Trauma. Marcia Black is a licensed clinical psychologist with a background in attachment, relational, and intersubjective approaches. She has been in private practice for over 35 years in San Francisco and the East Bay Area. Lastly, Stefanie Klein is a licensed clinical social worker and has spent 22 years in her Los Angeles private practice, specializing in treating adults with trauma and anxiety disorders. Please enjoy this episode with Brad, Stefanie, and Marcia. All right, welcome. I'm sitting here with Brad, Stefanie, and Marcia. So happy to have you all back to Transforming Trauma.
Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, Emily.
Yeah, nice to be here.
So I'm really excited to hear about a new program that y'all are putting together. And I believe it's called SPACE. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. From what I understand, it's an inner development program for therapists as opposed to a training. So wondering, how did it come about? Is that the first place we can start?
Sure.
That's a good place to start. Yeah.
Yeah, so the full title of the program is SPACE, an inner development program of support and self-discovery for therapists on the personal, interpersonal, and transpersonal level. And it gives you a sense of where we're going in this program. And I'm happy to hear from Marcia and Stefanie about their intention and where this program is coming from. But I know for myself, so many of us have done a lot of different trainings as therapists or specifically in the trauma world. And often what gets left out is ourselves. We focus so much on our clients and learning about different interventions and different models, which is all very important. But as we all know here, the cost of that often is our own experiences, particularly when we're working with clients with intense, complex trauma. It can really take a toll on us, and there's a lot of burnout in our field. And so in our community, there's such a desire for us to continue going deeper into our own experiences as humans in our role of therapists, and not just taking outside knowledge and training, but also bringing our own wisdom into more clarity with our clients. So the SPACE term comes from this understanding of kind of the 3 levels of space that we'll be supporting participants with, which is on personal space, discovering for ourselves as therapists what's getting in the way of us being more present, more open, more heartful, more effective in our role as therapists. A more relational or community space about supporting each other in relationship, which is so much of what therapy is about, and also just in our learning development program together. And then in this kind of shared sacred space that often doesn't get talked about so much in psychotherapy, but is something that gets opened up and created not only with our clients, but also in these collective learning environments when we're going deeper into these really powerful experiences.
I love everything that you said, and just made me think about like how we're thinking of our roles even is so different than some of our other CTTC trainings, because here we're developing a program where our role is to facilitate space. Our role is really to, set up a certain kind of container and structure to facilitate a space for deeper exploration. And I think, a lot of people who are therapists who work with complex trauma know that the greatest resource that we have is our internal knowing and our internal wisdom, as well as our internal capacity to be with vulnerability and to be with uncertainty. And at the same time, our biggest obstacles that get in the way of both our experience and our enjoyment of our work and our effectiveness are internal obstacles. So that's the territory that we're excited to be really focusing on, rather than teaching what to do or what not to do, or some kind of set of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. The being, not so much the doing.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, speaking for myself, I've been in this field for over 40 years now, and I have had a lot of trainings and learned a lot of models. And when I think about what has given me the most, vitalized, kind of inspiring, moving, touching, growth producing work for myself and my clients is more when I get out of my own way and I'm really with them and just purely in my own humanity. It's not about a technique. What we want to support here is our kind of lifelong learning. Like, that's what's so inspiring to me about what we're doing here. It's not a model that we're going to learn and then just execute, and get facility in. It's like the thing that can go on and on for us is our capacity to be more and more connected to the parts of ourselves that we may leave out of the work, that we may be afraid of experiencing in our work, and that can be our greatest resources in our work. I almost look at this as something that could be an ongoing experience for people as we develop it and create a community that often people in private practice really don't have, where we can continue to support each other and create safety to go to those places of vulnerability, openness, transparency, that when we do, we can have these incredible moments in the work where we get to grow alongside our clients in ways that really make our work worthwhile.
Yeah.
Well, we do it every day. It's important that we enjoy it and feel enlivened by it. So I'm excited for what we're doing here.
So I'm really curious to know what inspired you all to create this program.
Well, I'm happy to start here. I've been a teacher and consultant of therapists for many years now. And one of the things that just feels so typical for so many of us in this field is that we came into it because we really had such a passion and eagerness to learn more about ourselves, learn more about people, learn more about how the brain works and how humanity works. And then we often get really far from that. We get far from kind of the magic of humanity. And people find themselves not enjoying, like Marcia said before, their profession as much. And what we're wanting to do is to kind of revitalize or enliven what it is to be a therapist, what it is to explore this territory relationally, which includes us. And it also includes, for some of us, kind of aspects of transpersonal experience too. So again, one of the reasons why we're trying to differentiate this from like a standard training where you come to learn things about what you do for other people, it's really oriented to this exploration of humanity, our own humanity, our shared humanity, and with the intent that that will help us not only become more effective therapists, but also love our work more.
I'm thinking about, my journey and what brought me, to the field, because I had my own therapy before, and there was a long time that I hadn't considered being a therapist. But you named the transpersonal piece that I think I experienced that and was really drawn to that element of the work. And so I appreciate you naming that.
I think one of the things that might be helpful is just to sort of give a little bit of an overview of some of the things that are kind of at the heart of what our agenda is here for our program, which is to focus on self-discovery, teaching a way to be, not a clinical model. So, we're therapists focused, not skill focused. We're looking at supporting capacity for increased complexity and attunement and personal self-care in our professional and therapist role. We talk about identifying some of our blind spots, and bringing more vitality into our work as we build a stronger relationship to ourselves. So it's a core resource, regardless of what our modality is, that we're really wanting to support here in deepening self-awareness and heartfulness and ways to get more support in our development and our personal growth in our work. Hopefully, right in the program as well as expanding outside the program, as we're hoping that the program itself can become a community that people feel connected to and reach out to and continue in even between the modules.
Is this something that you really see as just an ongoing kind of peeling of the onion and processing for those who choose to join?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like that's one thing that in private practice is really hard to find, which is a safe container where we can really bring some of our deepest challenges. There are situations where we can be brought to our knees, and we're really wanting to support a space where that exploration can happen in a way that is safe and supported, hopefully in an ongoing way. I mean, if possible, this will be an offering each year.
Yeah. And I just want to go back to something you said, Emily, about how it was sort of a connection to transpersonal experience that kind of brought you into the field through your own therapy. We're still a new organization here, CTTC, the Complex Trauma Training Center, and our mission is founded around supporting therapists in their connection to these three levels of experience: the personal, the interpersonal, and the transpersonal. So in a lot of ways, I think about this new program, it's the first new program coming out of CTTC, and I see it as being really our core program that really speaks to the direction that we want to go as an organization and how we want to support therapists who are out there healing trauma.
Yeah, Emily, one of the things that we were talking about today as we were kind of visioning and working with the program is that so many of us, again, are going out to get knowledge, to get teaching. And what we're really often looking for is connection to our own inner knowing and wisdom, and how difficult that has been, because so many of us educationally from when we were young children were not taught how to actually learn inside out. We were really taught to take in from the outside and make that fit to our internal experience. And so again, there's something we're trying to do that's, I feel, pretty novel and possibly revolutionary, which is this kind of inside out way of learning that Stefanie, Marcia, and I will be the facilitators of this program, but we're not going to be coming in with all this different knowledge and all this different teaching and all these different skills and interventions and protocols. We're going to be facilitating exploration of people's inner worlds and how they're bringing their inner worlds in unconscious and conscious ways, and the hope for how they'd like to bring their inner worlds more into their professional and perhaps even their personal lives.
And also, just keep riffing on this theme here. By the way, Inside Out 2, great movie.
Yes,
Why don't you go see it? Incredibly touching.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to say too, like Brad was talking about our educational trauma and how we collapse that inner space and prioritize outside knowing, often through the lens of a lot of fear. But also there's just the basis of complex trauma, which is all about collapsing our inner space, our inner experience, our true emotions, our true needs in the service of, survival. And so, I mean, that's really what complex trauma is all about. And so it just seems inevitable that to be able to really, really drop into that space where we can be with another person in our full humanity and their full humanity, we need to be able to have the space, the internal space that we had to give up for various reasons, often from the very beginning.
I feel so touched and I'm so excited about this. I'm already like, okay, when does it start, guys? But we have more questions here I want to ask. So I'm curious, what are you all excited for the participants to take from the program?
It's an interesting question. I think it's going to be so different for each and every person, but like a big one for me would be more enjoyment. Marcia mentioned this, more enjoyment, more ease, more internal sense of okayness. Again, on those three levels about, who we are, about what we're bringing, or not bringing in any given moment, what we can do, what we can't do for our clients, with our clients, and then that bigger level about how we are a part of this community of therapists, of the community of trauma healers, and of the world around us. So just a greater enjoyment and enriching of our inhabiting ourselves in all of those different ways.
I think what I really love participants to get out is ways of relating to themselves with more self-acceptance, self-compassion, less pressure, more creativity. And coming back to the title is more space. Sometimes we talk about in other trainings and other programs we do about a certain kind of quietness that we're trying to develop internally that puts us less in a sympathetic nervous system state and more into a parasympathetic, a receptive state. And not only does that make us a lot more effective as therapists, but it's such a more pleasurable way to show up in relationship. And I would love people to not have to worry about doing it right or getting all the information or the expectations of how they're going to take this money they've spent on this new model and, prove that it was worth it, but that they really just get to be in a community and in these environments where they get to bring themselves and support others and also get to receive support and enrichment for themselves as well.
I think about in consults that I have and in other, training experiences, how students tend to leave their most authentic parts out. And sometimes even in a consult, I'll say, okay, just set aside everything you think you should do. What are you experiencing right now? And there's this beautiful sort of space that arises of emotion or vulnerability or tenderness or something like that. Often we devalue some of our most tender parts, our most vulnerable parts, or even some of our gifts. And so Brad was talking about self-acceptance, but also being able to really know more of what we have to bring and invite those parts in, not just our vulnerabilities, but also, the things that we might not even realize are our gifts and our capacities. So I'm really hoping that we create a space where, it's safe to be vulnerable and open, and where we're nurturing those aspects of self that are the ones that will support our own growth in the process of supporting our clients' growth as well.
I appreciate you naming the piece about allowing ourselves to bring in our gifts too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know, that maybe sounds super obvious, but to me, I don't know. I think there's a lot of us that certainly wasn't an obvious piece coming in to this work. And so, yeah, I appreciate you naming that even explicitly, that all of our parts are welcome.
Emily, I think I have a quote that captures what all three of us just shared.
Yeah.
It's by Dr. Jonathan Shedler. And it says, the goal is to insert spaces for reflection where they have not previously existed, and thereby create opportunities to know ourselves more fully, connect with others more deeply, and live life more congruently.
Ooh, love that.
Wow. That's landing. I'm giving it a little bit more space inside myself to hold that. Thank you for that. So we've talked a little bit, we've dipped our toe in the water of what it is, but can you share more, specifically who is the program for? Who can join SPACE?
Therapists. This is a program for licensed therapists and therapists in training. Okay. So it is definitely specific to therapists, but anybody from any background, studied any kind of modality. I mean, this is a program for human therapists.
I love it.
So if you fit into those two broad categories, it's a program for you.
You check those boxes. If you're a human and you're a therapist, we can join. I love that.
Or a human therapist in training.
Yes. Okay. And I love that it's hopefully going to draw a diverse crowd, that we can have a lot of folks from lots of different backgrounds like you named. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, that is our hope.
Cool. So can we dig into a little bit more of the nuts and bolts? What are some of the topics that you'll be sharing in the program and the offering?
Yeah, basically there'll be 6 weekends over the course of a year. So each weekend has its theme, its major theme, and then we have topics that we'll be exploring all weekend within the theme. I don't want to get too bogged down into all the different topics, but let me just talk to you about the 6 themes. The first weekend theme is what we call SOS, which is connection to self, other, and spiritual. So starting to introduce this orientation of how we're working on the personal, the interpersonal, and transpersonal levels of experience. Class 2 or weekend 2 is about therapist openness and vulnerability. Lots to dig into around all of these. But class 3, the theme is around developing the capacity for complexity, uncertainty, and discovery. Class 4 is on countertransference as a support to relational depth. Class 5 is therapeutic enactments. And class 6 is personal and transpersonal development for therapists, which is the last weekend that is tying a lot of these pieces together.
Okay. I feel like I should have written those down. Brad, just for sake of my clarity, can you name them off one more time?
Of course. Class 1 is SOS, connection to self, other, and spiritual.
Okay.
Class 2 is therapist openness and vulnerability. Class 3 is developing the capacity for complexity, uncertainty, and discovery. Class 4 is countertransference as a support to relational depth. Class 5 is therapeutic enactments. And class 6 is personal and transpersonal development for therapists.
Cool. That's so exciting.
One of the things that we're really holding near and dear is that the way that we create these experiential opportunities to relate to these topics and the sub-themes and the topics is really to walk the talk. In essence, that we're not going to teach like a training, but we're really working to create experiential opportunities where the way we actually bring the learning to the participants really is reflective of what we're hoping they will learn. So we have a lot of experiential offerings, reflective exercises in the class. We have what we call intersubjective experiences or inquiries, where we might bring in a kind of situation that is challenging and students will have an opportunity to work with it. We have other guided explorations around certain themes in dyads and in the group. We have some very related journaling offerings, which tie into the content during and between the classes, and even the opportunity for people to get together with their triad outside to reflect on some of that homework. So we're really working to create real live opportunities for people to actually have these themes come up in the class and in the dyads and triads in ways that we're kind of working present moment. Rather than talking about something, we're actually inviting people to be with those things together in the program.
And I'll just add that we're also going to be, as a group, debriefing around a lot of these experiences. So there'll be group discussion and coming together and sharing of what we're discovering. So again, coming back to that larger piece around belonging and connecting to something larger than ourselves, we'll be coming back from these smaller explorations to share some of our experience with each other.
Yeah, I have a personal reaction to things that happen in trainings that we do through the CTTC. And for example, let's say we do a demo in front of the class. And then when we do a debrief of the demo, oftentimes people are very focused on the different interventions and the skills and the mechanics of that process. And I have a reaction because part of me, my more adult, intellectual, mature part of me knows that that's what people are there for. And of course, as the teacher, I want to support their learning of that. But it hurts my heart a little bit because those experiences are so touching and deep. And I mean, they change people's lives sometimes. And I often feel like when the debrief goes into the direction of mechanically breaking down these different parts, it loses the impact of what happens when we're in a group together and bring our humanity, our vulnerability, our edges, and get support around that. And so, again, that's a big shift here, is that we're going to be able to witness and experience these reflections and this experiential learning and be able to share our own responses to it and our own feelings around it, as opposed to trying to learn or take anything specifically from it.
And that includes us, as the facilitators, that I envision us being very much in it, also from a place of our own vulnerability and openness and heartfulness in
Yeah,
participating with the students in that level of transparency.
exactly.
Brad, it's so interesting that that's what you would name, because that's one of the things that came up for me in some of the other trainings. Like the debriefs kind of felt a little bit mechanical. And my experience, in at least one of my first experiences in a demo as a participant, was that you held a different kind of space. And it felt very different to me. And that actually, I was really, really drawn to that. The debrief, I don't know how to say this, but like it helped me change my relationship to discovery. Because I think in the past, discovery always felt really scary. Like, oh, this is something new. I don't know what this is, and trying to figure it out. And being able to sort of like marinate in the space after that demo and just like be with it and be with the humanity. That's something that really struck me.
Yeah, for sure.
So there'll be more of that.
Definitely more of that. And then the intersubjective explorations that Marcia was talking a little bit about is a way of bringing some of the client experiences that are really evocative to us. I mean, again, you think about seeing 5, 6, 7 clients a day. We don't have time to slow it down and to notice the impact on us and to take time to learn about it. So this will be opportunities for us to really, again, both in small dyads or in small groups or in the large class, to do some intersubjective exploration about themes or specific clients that do evoke some of this unresolved material inside of us that we're really wanting to support greater connection and awareness about.
How is this different from other offerings that CTTC has, like group case consults? I'm curious if you can name, like, how will this be different?
Some of the differences is that we're going to be really drilling down into these very specific themes. And so we're going to have areas of focus and even some prompts that are going to be specifically about different areas that are familiar or common to us that we get triggered or where things get evoked for us. And there's no end to those probably. So we're not going to be able to cover everything, of course, in one year. But that's what Marcia said about it's really more even than these specific triggers or themes. It's really about this invitation to have a new relationship to our own inner world as a therapist. So we hope it will really develop capacity for therapists to be able, when they're sitting with their clients, to have more access to these internal reactions and therefore have more possibility for how they respond to them. Yeah. So, a lot of what we're going to be exploring here is about using these specific themes to get to know often these internal states, feelings, reactions that we have disconnected from and that are part of our full humanity and developing more of direct relationship with.
Yeah, I mean, I think the underlying principles or the values that are informing where we're going here with this program, there's going to be familiarity with them. They're a continuation of all of the different ways that we've learned are effective in healing relational trauma and supporting the healing of complex trauma. But the prioritization of where we're focusing, what we're spending our time doing, like what the main course is going to feel very different here. And we've created all sorts of different angles and ways of inviting this space and evoking some of this material. Marcia listed a bunch of them, but they're all different ways. And that's the entree here, rather than learning a model and, getting a certificate and saying you can do it. It's really going to be a certificate in yourself.
There's something too about, as we think about the themes that we bring in, of almost normalizing or even recontextualizing some of the things that come up for us in our work. And when I think of some of the hardest moments, there's often shame there. Like it's hard to talk to them, that you might have found yourself in some enactment or wound up doing something that you wish you hadn't, or not holding a boundary or something. It's not easy to look at that happened and also what was going on with you that it did. We really want to create a safe space where that's going to happen for all of us at different times, and in making space for us to explore it and what it might be driven by in us in this community is hopefully to be transformative for our way to be with the more vulnerable, tender parts of ourselves that sometimes we hide. And then when we hide, we go to strategy, and then we go back in trying even harder to do the right thing rather than being more ourselves in the work. So that to me feels like an ongoing process throughout our whole career. There are going to be situations where that comes up even as we continue to grow.
I have another part of the answer to your question, Emily. It came to me as I was reflecting on what Stefanie and Marcia were saying, but a lot of this is actually also driven from specific requests from participants in our other trainings, in our consults, that there's so much rich material that we're presenting and sharing and exploring, and we just don't often feel like we have enough time and space to really get underneath in a way that has the luxury of time, has the luxury of kind of a certain kind of spaciousness. And so that's what we're really trying to create. Like, for example, I was just thinking about one of the exercises we're going to be doing is something that's going to sound familiar to you, Emily, about reflecting on what it's like for you when you show up with clients with pressure to be the good therapist. Or what does it mean to put all this pressure to not be a quote, bad therapist? And that's something that we do talk about in some of our other trainings, and it gets brought up in a lot of consults that we do with therapists. But as Stefanie said, we're going to have different angles of exploring this and giving a lot more space and time, sometimes working with specific clients that it gets evoked, and sometimes more kind of larger themes that we notice that it plays out in our life or as therapists. So that's another place where this intent of this program came from, is just people really wanting more time to dive in together in a safe, contained environment to get to know this inner material more fully.
That's interesting. I'm just thinking about case consults. There's times where I think I've even named, like, it's hard for me to give myself space in those groups. Like, I know everyone else has questions. And so I appreciate that y'all have like organized these themes that you've noticed recurring so that there can be like an organized place for us all to address these things and give ourselves the space.
Which is one of the topics.
Oh, really?
one of the topics, something that Marcia, Stefanie, and I have seen so often in our trainings and the consults we do, is how difficult it is for so many therapists to ask for and receive support. And Marcia talked about shame. So many therapists will shame themselves for not already knowing what to do, or even just needing other people to bounce ideas off or to support them with something. And again, we're trying to establish through CTTC a community where that is the heart of it, is that we get to be humans and we get to support each other in our best and worst moments as therapists in our profession.
Brilliant. I love it. Well, I'm also really curious what it's been like for the three of you to be collaborating and creating space.
Fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes hard to really create something brand new. I think we collaborate really, really well together. And we've gotten to do it in some interesting spaces. You know, we've been in person together in Bodega Bay and in Marcia's home in the Bay Area. And it's so interesting how we could riff on this word space forever, because there's this space that we've been sharing together doing this, which is different, which is new. We haven't been able to create together like this. I've enjoyed it a lot. And it's also really interesting to see the different ways that we create and think about things. We all have our themes in how we approach something or what we're pushing for. And I think they all complement each other really, really well.
We've gotten to the point where we can tease each other too. We know each other's strategies really well. I'm the one who's always like, let's make this concrete. You know, how are we actually going to do this? And Brad's like the visionary. And Stefanie, you bridge the whole gamut between the two of us. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I would say that our heart and spirit in our relationship is what we're trying to manifest as part of this program. And I so respect these two, my friends and colleagues, in their journey as showing up with humanity in their roles. I mean, between the three of us, we've been therapists for over 100 years, and it's a lot of time. And watching them in the leadership roles that we've been in through NARM Training Institute and now CTTC, and how much... It's funny, a lot of therapists don't even know that these are things that they need. Like, they come in to just get trained in a certain kind of modality. And then when they meet people like Stefanie and Marcia and some of our other, lead folks, that are able to really walk the talk and show up with humanity and vulnerability and transparency and the willingness to be on the same page and collaborate and not be the expert and all those different things that we try to embody. Again, I think the learning is so rich in those environments. And so it's just been fun to create this material. I love creating new things. And yeah, it's true. Some of the more practical pieces are a little more challenging for me, but we're excited to learn too. Like we don't have a set script exactly, which is, I think, nerve-wracking for us because we're so used to teaching for many years with kind of a set, more or less set script. So we're going off into a new thing for ourselves, and we're going to be excited to share our own journey in that.
But that is also walking the talk. And we have a whole segment on being in the I don't know and being in uncertainty. And we also are excited to look at how we get to learn alongside our clients. And I think we also are hoping that we get to learn alongside our participants in this program who will teach us in how they experience what we bring and offer. You know, what are we going to continue doing? What might we want to change? That we really envision it as a collaboration. And to me, that's what I think about my therapy work is it's really a collaboration. I might have like a few capacities to bring, but we're really in it together. And I think we're really genuinely looking at it like that, the three of us with each other and then with whoever decides to join with us.
Yeah, we don't have the answers. This isn't about answers. We're creating a program that's about questions. And that's very much how we are approaching creating it together, is that we just keep asking questions and see what happens. So far, so good.
And again, there's a fun part of that of just like, I know sometimes discovery can be scary, but there's also fun. Like we don't know. We're just getting to explore together and we're going to learn and we're going to grow and we're going to probably be scared sometimes and we're going to be there to support each other. And all of those things are what our humanity consists of. And that's what we're trying to create, a community and a space that we can be in our humanity.
I love that.
I just wanted to say, like, I don't really consider myself a creative person. I mean, there are very specific lanes that I consider myself creative. Like, I feel very creative in my therapeutic work when I'm in my clinical mindset. But, like, I don't feel like somebody who would create a program. So this is like very new territory for me. You know, it's an honor to be included and get to have input in creating something new. And it also stirs up a lot of interesting insecurities. I do a lot of, I have an idea, but it's a stupid idea. I don't think I'm going to say it. No, I'm going to say it. Like I just do it all out loud and, you know, I'll say it tomorrow, you know, you can hate it. Like, you know, all these different edges that it pulls. So I'm really tremendously benefiting as a person by stretching in this way.
And that's also aligned with what we're doing in the program, like a really inviting people to be with in a transparent way what's happening as we work with stuff. And what's exciting to me is we'll do this and then suddenly Brad will be typing the outcome of all three of us and we're like, oh my God, look at that. You know, it's just what we want, which wasn't quite what either one of us would have started with, but it came out of the spontaneity of being willing to be in, you know, feeling around in it together. So, and that's what we hope the program is. An opportunity for people that they wouldn't have had any idea would have been possible.
You know, I really don't want to like make this hyperbolic or sound arrogant or anything like this, but I really think this is pretty unique, actually, at least in the psychological world. Just having an environment where we can really get to know and invite our own humanity and our humanity in relationship to our clients, humanity in relationship to our peers, our colleagues. I just don't know a lot of opportunities to do that. And so that is the mission of Complex Trauma Training Center, that we create the center and this community that we get to do that. So I just feel like this is so exciting and part of my mission, part of my passion, and I couldn't be doing it with better people.
Oh, thanks.
It's an honor.
Sweet. Yeah, I love seeing the three of you collaborate and being together and the way you can play off each other and your strengths kind of show up It's very cool. Very cool. This is the group project I would have wanted to be a part of in high school. But I never got that.
I bet
But
you
it's
were
cool.
always the person who was doing the work while everybody else.
Oh my gosh.
Right, Emily?
Group projects, maybe. I love it though. Yeah, very cool. Well, I so appreciate the three of you taking the time because I know your time is valuable and where all your availability intersects is probably rare. So I appreciate you bringing this to the community. Is there anything else we want to make sure we touch on before we close?
I mean, by the time that this airs, there'll be a registration page with all the different information about what we're doing, some of the stuff that Marcia was laying out, and all the topics that I was talking about or referencing. And also just the structure of the program and the dates. We're really, really going to encourage people to sign up for the year program because it's going to be this ongoing each weekend, every other month. So one weekend every other month. Friday, Saturday, will build into the next one. So we are going to let people come into just specific weekends if they can't commit to all 6 of the weekends next year. But we are going to encourage people to try to do the best they can to sign up because it really is going to be relying on that ongoing kind of community development and also just the layout of how each kind of new topic builds upon the previous topic. So another part of our community is to try to make things as accessible as possible. So we're going to keep it open so that people can join us if they're not able to make the full commitment. And we'll do our best to include everyone each weekend that we're together.
Awesome. So as we move to close, I'm curious if there's anything else any of you would like to say or share before we close.
I would be curious, Emily, about how this is landing for you as you're listening to us for the first time publicly sharing about this new program.
I'm just so excited. I feel really lucky that I'm hearing about this because I'm already lining up my ducks to be able to show up because I fully plan on being there every weekend. Yeah, I feel really touched earlier just when y'all were talking about, creating that space, a safe enough space. I know it's something I'm needing. So I imagine there's so many out there who are really needing a space like that to be able to show up and explore the territory that feels a little tender. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm raising my hand. I'm going to join.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait to have you there.
Oh, welcome.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode. To find more information about our guest, check the show notes or visit us at complextraumatrainingcenter.com/transforming trauma. You can also connect with us in other ways. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. As a mental health professional, your commitment to healing and growth inspires us. We at the Complex Trauma Training Center are committed to supporting you in your well-being and success. That's why we're honored to invite you to our Space Program 2025, an interdevelopment program of support and self-discovery for therapists on the personal, interpersonal, and transpersonal levels. Running over 6 online sessions in 2025, this interactive experiential learning program is designed to support self-care and self-discovery for therapists, exploring internally, relationally, and transpersonally. CTTC faculty will welcome you into a professional community of therapists that are seeking to create greater effectiveness and resilience in our professional lives. As CTTC faculty Brad Kammer says, the intent is that this program will help us not only become more effective therapists, but also love our work more. Please visit complextraumatrainingcenter.com and secure your spot in the 2025 Space Program. Thanks to Andrea Klunder and the Creative Imposter Studios for producing and editing, to Elisa Sponseller for our album art, and to Brad Kammer for the creation of this podcast. We look forward to building community and connection with you and changing the world by transforming trauma.